I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, hitting the road. President Trump takes his economic message on tour, where he's going and what he hopes to accomplish. Trading ban, who's behind the new push to keep lawmakers out of the stock market, and how is it going? Plus, hitting the right notes.
For the way you look at me.
We sit down with Grammy Award winner Michael Bublé to talk about his experience of singing to the poor and the Pope in Rome. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Juan Diego. Our top story tonight. President Donald Trump makes a trip to Pennsylvania to talk about the economy. He says inflation is under control after skyrocketing during the previous administration. But polls show Americans remain concerned about overall prices. President Donald Trump wants to assure Americans he's working to bring down prices. He often points to the lower price of eggs and cheaper gasoline as examples.
We hit $1.99 a gallon in 3 different states, and that's an amazing accomplishment.
But many food prices and consumer costs remain high. Job openings also ticked up in October. Critics pin the blame on Republicans and call on them to make health care affordable.
The Democrats are not in power right now. It's the Republicans. They're the ones that are making the decisions. They're the ones that need to extend the tax credits. So, I mean, they have control over that right now.
President Trump's tariffs are meant to help the economy by bringing manufacturing back to the U.S., but upfront costs have jacked up some prices. Still, Trump writes, because of tariffs easily and quickly applied, our national security has been greatly enhanced, and we have become the financially strongest country by far anywhere in the world. Only dark and sinister forces would want to see that end.
Democrats caused the affordability problem, and we're the ones that are fixing it.
The president also counsels other countries, posting Mexico continues to violate our comprehensive water treaty, and this violation is seriously hurting our beautiful Texas crops and livestock. Adding, that is why I have authorized documentation to impose a 5% tariff on Mexico if this water isn't released immediately. And when it comes to China, President Trump relaxes restrictions on computer chips used for artificial intelligence, writing, the United States will allow NVIDIA to ship its H200 products to approved customers in China and other countries under conditions that allow for continued strong national security. President Xi responded positively. 25% will be paid to the United States of America. This policy will support American jobs, strengthen U.S. manufacturing, and benefit American taxpayers. I want to bring in Rich Todd. He is the CEO and co-founder of Invest Portfolio Solutions. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the state of the economy?
Well, actually, the economy is pretty good. We had GDP growth that was very strong in the second quarter. Expectations are that the third quarter GDP growth will be 3.5 or so. The fourth quarter, we were, slowing down because of the government shutdown for sure. But I think that what the stock market is telling us, with it being so strong, is that actually 26 is going to be pretty good.
Now, of course, the stock market fluctuates. It goes up and down. What are you anticipating for 2026?
Well, it's hard to make predictions over the short run. I think what we know is the market is a leading indicator to the economy. And I think the market is telling us that economic growth should be pretty good next year. But I think if you're a investor in equities, you should have a long-term perspective. Volatility is part of the game. And if we do have a correction, that's a great opportunity to rebalance portfolios, actually add to equities. But valuations right now in the stock market are very high. And, taking some chips off the table might make some sense. But I think the key to being a good investor is being process oriented, not trying to predict markets, and being diversified.
So moving from Wall Street to Main Street, consumer spending has been resilient, but debt levels, especially credit card and auto loans, are rising. How sustainable is consumer-driven growth for the rest of 2025? And do you foresee any stress points developing in 2026?
We're going to have a new Fed chairman, and I think that most believe that new Fed chairman will likely be focused on driving rates lower, and that should help the consumer. It's certainly going to help the housing market. And it's also going to help these companies that rely a lot on debt. Right now with interest rates higher, it's a burden. And if you look at earnings have been strong, especially for big companies, but the more leverage a company has, the harder time they've had.
What are some of the biggest economic rewards and risks that could emerge in 2026?
Well, that's a good question. We, like I said earlier, believe that diversification is really important. We are actually leaning into infrastructure. We believe that that's an opportunity, diversified infrastructure, which perhaps takes advantage of some of the elements of this transitioning economy into AI and really energy. And then also real estate. Real estate has had a tougher time of it, and now might be a good time to be diversifying more into real estate, especially if we're in an environment where.
Rich Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This morning, Pope Leo XIV welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the papal residence at Castel Gandolfo.
Thank you very much. Good to see you again. Happy to see you.
The Pope underlined the importance of ongoing dialogue and once again stressed his urgent hope that a lasting peace will be struck between the two countries. Outside Castel Gandolfo this evening, he spoke briefly with EWTN News Vatican correspondent Valentina Di Donato about the Church's effort to bring kidnapped Ukrainian children home.
We spoke about it, most of the work that's going on, which is very slow, unfortunately, but it's done, if you will, behind the scenes, so I prefer not to comment more than that. We continue to work on that to try and get those children back to their homes, to their families.
Meanwhile, President Trump is pressuring Zelensky to accept his proposal that Ukraine surrender territory to Russia in an effort to end the years-long war. Trump says Moscow retains the upper hand and that Kyiv must, quote, get on the ball and start accepting things. In an interview with Politico released today, Trump says the process between Russia and Ukraine is particularly difficult because of the animosity between Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. He also repeats his call for Ukraine to hold a presidential election. However, that is not allowed under their current martial law. The Archdiocese of New York City will pay out nearly $1/3 of $1 billion to victims of clergy abuse. It's one of the largest church payouts in U.S. history. Cardinal Timothy Dolan announced the settlement this week. The fund would cover settlements for most of the roughly 1,300 claims against the Archdiocese. Cardinal Dolan says the Archdiocese will pay for the fund by reducing its budget and selling off assets. Poll numbers say an overwhelmingly majority of Americans favor banning members of Congress from trading stocks. But efforts to turn that public sentiment into law have long sputtered until now. It's an issue that's splintered lawmakers. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with the latest. Eric.
Hey, good evening, Veronica. This is an issue that has gone nowhere for years. That's because lawmakers would have to approve any overhaul of congressional investing, a decision which could have a considerable financial impact for some of them. But right now, it is gaining speed in both the House and the Senate. In the House, there is a bill that has both hardcore conservatives and even liberals behind it. Republican Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is one of those spearheading the effort. She says the American public knows that stock trading by lawmakers is wrong.
The members of Congress that are engaging in individual stock trades, or their wives that have never traded a stock in their life and all of a sudden are overnight stock trading sensations, are making on average 600% returns and outperforming the S&P. Do you think that's normal?
Studies showed leaders in Congress are even doing better, outperforming rank and file members on stock trades by nearly 50%. So far, Congresswoman Luna has more than 100 signatures on a petition to force a House vote. One lawmaker for the ban is Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, who says a vote is long overdue.
We need to get the stock trading issue on the floor. We need to vote on it. And I think the American people are going to demand that we do it. And if they put something that's watered down on the floor, that's not going to fly. Now, I'm on the Rules Committee. I'm working with the members. I'm not on a discharge petition. I'm going to keep trying to operate within our normal procedures. I think that's important. But we're long past time to do this.
The Restore Trust in Congress Act would prohibit members of Congress, their spouses, and dependent children from owning, buying, or selling individual stocks, securities, or futures, with certain exceptions. Members and their families would still be allowed to own treasuries, municipal bonds, and mutual funds. Democrats say Speaker Johnson is holding it up.
I think part of the challenge, again, is that Mike Johnson apparently said he's got zero interest in moving the legislation that is actually bipartisan, led by Chip Roy and Seth Magaziner. Mike Johnson, zero interest in banning congressional stock trading.
The opportunity for corruption is just so great. When members of Congress decide how to vote on a bill, they should be voting based on what they think is best for the American people, not what is best for their investment accounts.
Congresswoman Luna tells me that she does plan to wait and see what Speaker Johnson does. If he does bring a vote to the floor on the stock trading ban, then she will remove her discharge petition. But as of right now, it does stay. Veronica?
Eric, switching gears, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was on the Hill today meeting with a gang of 8 leaders in both the House and Senate. What can you tell us?
Well, that is correct. Yes, Secretary Hegseth briefed lawmakers on the latest boat strikes off the Venezuelan coast, including the controversial September 2nd strike, which killed 2 survivors. As we know, Democrats who saw the video say that the 2 survivors were actually clinging on to the side of the boat, which had just been hit by U.S. military seconds earlier. Congress has been concerned about the use of military force by the Department of Defense and Secretary Hegseth, so lawmakers tucked into the massive defense policy bill known as the NDAA, a provision that would limit Secretary Hegseth's travel budget unless he provides the House and Senate Armed Services Committee with unedited video of the strike and others. Right now, that video is currently classified to only top congressional lawmakers who have seen it, but there is growing bipartisan support to release the entire full video of the controversial strikes of that day and others to the entire body of Congress. So we're going to stay on top of that issue and see where it takes us.
Thanks, Eric. Bassist and co-lead singer of KISS, Gene Simmons, is bringing his experience in the music industry to Capitol Hill today to fight for artists' rights with the American Music Fairness Act. The legislation looks to ensure that AM and FM radio broadcasters pay performers royalties when their songs are played.
And I found out shockingly, the king of rock and roll was never paid a single penny for his performance. Everybody else was paid. Radio made $14 billion. Elvis made nothing from his performance on radio.
Simmons, who is a recent Kennedy Center honoree, has testified this afternoon before the Senate. He argues the bill would correct what he calls decades of injustice in the industry. Under current U.S. law, artists do not receive performance royalties from traditional radio broadcasts. The American Music Fairness Act was introduced in January and remains in the House Judiciary Committee, where it has not yet advanced. The International Criminal Court has sentenced Ali Mohammed Ali Abd al-Rahman, leader of Sudan's feared Janjaweed militia, to 20 years of prison for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur. He was convicted in October on 27 counts, including ordering mass executions during the conflict of 2003 to 2004. Prosecutors had sought a life sentence. This landmark ruling marks the first conviction by the ICC for the Darfur atrocities, with violence still raging there. The ICC is seeking evidence of ongoing atrocities, declaring that the pursuit of accountability will continue. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Star power at the Vatican.
This is really special, though, what the Vatican has done here in the church in really trying to make sure that we really connect people.
EWTN News talks with Michael Bublé about his recent concert organized by the Vatican and his Catholic background. And President Trump makes a decision on which countries will receive AI chip exports. We have analysis. The Supreme Court has signaled a major re-examination of New York's strict school vaccine requirements, which currently bans religious exemptions. The court vacated a lower court ruling ordering it to reconsider the case of Amish families facing large fines. The Supreme Court is now forcing the lower court to reevaluate the law under strengthened protections for religious believers, demanding that the government cannot punish religious conviction while granting other secular exemptions. The move marks an important step towards stopping New York from punishing communities like the Amish for their faith, setting a significant precedent for religious liberty nationwide. President Donald Trump announced that the U.S. will allow NVIDIA to export its artificial intelligence chips to China and other countries. The move partially reverses a Biden-era restriction on high-end chip exports. President Trump says the U.S. will gain a 25% share from the H200 chip exports, adding that the trade will be closely monitored to safeguard national security. The highly sought-after chips will be approved for commercial customers, vetted by the Department of Commerce. NVIDIA welcomed the decision, saying it allows America's chip industry to compete to support high-paying jobs and manufacturing in the United States. Si-Hoon Kim, the managing editor and White House correspondent of East and South Asia at Global Strat View, joins me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So President Trump announced that he will allow the AI chip giant, NVIDIA, and other American companies to sell chips to approved customers in China. What impact do you think that will have on the current tech industry?
Well, in the current tech industry, this is a very major move, because for the first time in a long while, NVIDIA, for example, hasn't had a presence in China. It went from 95% to 0% presence, right? And then for NVIDIA to be able to go back to China and be able to sell their products there, it really sets a very important precedence for the tech industry, in the sense that we now have a ground to operate under the terms of the United States. Without going through the hurdles, the economic hurdles, I should say, that are often laid in place by the Chinese Communist Party. So in a way, there is a lot of positive aspect to this, because not only will we get all of that, but with this executive order, or with this allowing to be in China, for the first time, the U.S. gets a profit over it while maintaining a certain set of orders that were set into place by us.
Now, what do you think what type of impact will it have on the broader AI arms race?
Well, look, AI arms race has been ongoing for the last few years. I mean, I would even argue that the race has started since the introduction of the internet to the world. Now, with this particular issue, the NVIDIA being in China, it allows U.S.-dominated or U.S.-pushed companies to be able to directly compete with the AI companies that are emerging from China itself, or DeepSeek, or there is another company called Morse There, I believe. Their IPO has just skyrocketed to simply challenge NVIDIA on their growth, right? So. And it allows us to also learn from this challenge, but also at the same time, I mean, I think at this point the administration was confident enough that we have enough security vetting in place, but also innovators in the country enough to win over those challenges that are in place when we deal with the Chinese AI entities over there. And so in a way, it sets up a very strong cornerstone for the AI companies here in the United States, and really for worldwide. And honestly, looking at it from a broader perspective, it welcomes AI companies from all over the world, not just in China and elsewhere, but from South Korea, Japan, and so on and so forth, to join in with the United States in a race where there are a rule of law that produces profit, right, for these companies in total. So I think it'll produce a positive outcome in the long run, but for the short run, we are probably going to see a lot of challenges and hurdles, just like anything else.
Sehun, Kim, thank you so much. Up next on EWTN News Nightly.
I was raised in the Catholic Church, and my mother was my catechism teacher. So this was, oh my God, mind-blowing.
We catch up with Michael Bublé to discuss his recent concert at the Vatican. And for the first time since war broke out, a Christmas tradition returns to the town of Bethlehem. Welcome back. Christmas festivities have resumed in Bethlehem for the first time since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. The Christmas tree lit up the town center, surrounded by hundreds of residents and tourists. The birthplace of Christ is located in Palestinian territory, where all celebrations had been paused for safety concerns. Now, with the ceasefire in place, tourists are returning to see the iconic Christmas lights and shop at local bazaars. The traditional concert with the poor took place at the Vatican. The Holy Father attended, saying that music is not a luxury for the few, but a divine gift accessible to everyone. EWTN Vatican journalist Paola Flynn has more.
Michael Bublé brought Christmas music to the Vatican for the 6th edition of the Concert with the Poor, an initiative in which the guests of honor are those most in need. Seated among the more than 6,000 members of the audience, Pope Leo sang along to the songs, just as Michael Bublé encouraged all to do. The Canadian artist was accompanied by more than 70 members of the Nova Opera Orchestra and 200 members of the choir of the Diocese of Rome, conducted by Monsignor Marco Frisina, the event's artistic director. You have performed in front of many huge audiences. Now you're performing to the poor, to the most in need here in Rome. How do you feel about that?
This is really special, though, what the Vatican has done here in the Church in really trying to make sure that we really connect people. It's really about humanity. It's really, when it comes down to it, it's really about humanity. And, I talked to so many people today about what a gift from God music is. And before every show, it's the same thing every time. I say, thank you, God, for giving me the ability to connect with these beautiful souls. And that is literally what I will do tomorrow. It's what I do today. It's what I've done yesterday. And it's what I'll continue to do.
During the concert, Pope Leo addressed a few words to the guests of honor: homeless people, migrants, prisoners with special permission, and those living in situations of social difficulty, invited by the Dicastery for the Service of Charity and other volunteer associations.
Music is like the bridge that leads us to God. Music can lift our spirits, not because it distracts us from our sufferings, not because it numbs us or makes us forget our problems or the difficult situations of life. We are not just this. We are far more than our problems and our troubles. We are God's beloved children.
Siamo figli amati da Dio.
The day before the concert, the Pope received the participants and their families in the Apostolic Palace, a moment that was especially meaningful for Michael Bublé and his loved ones. And you're in Rome, the center of Catholic faith, the center of faith. What does this mean for you, faith in your career, in your personal life?
I was raised in the Catholic Church, and my mother was my catechism teacher. So this was, oh my God, mind-blowing, that I would, have this life and been blessed to do what I do. And then today it would all sort of come together, and her little boy would be asked to come and sing at something so profound and so beautiful. I'm overwhelmed. I'm still overwhelmed.
The initiative was born in 2015 with the support of Pope Francis to offer an artistic and cultural experience to those most in need, a gift they don't usually receive. Especially during the Christmas season, this is a warm gesture from the Vatican. In Rome, Paola Flynn for EWTN News Nightly.
It's for the way you look, you're looking at me.
It's December 9th, and today the church celebrates the feast of St. Juan Diego. He was born in what is now central Mexico in 1474 to an indigenous tribe. Around 50 years old, he was baptized by Franciscan missionaries. One day, while walking to Mass, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to him. She asked him to speak to his bishop about building a shrine for her on that very spot so she could pour out her grace on all who call upon her. The bishop was skeptical, so Mary instructed him to gather flowers from the area and take them to the bishop. He did so, and when he opened his tilma to show the bishop, it revealed an image of the Blessed Virgin. Today, that image is known as Our Lady of Guadalupe, which we celebrate on Friday. St. Juan Diego, pray for us. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.